Today we're in Franklin County visiting with our guest, Dr. Scotty Green from the Franklin Veterinary Clinic. Today we're going to talk a little bit about cattle restraint, how we restrain using ropes and work around a facility on large animals. Dr. Green, show us some of the techniques that we should use so that we're safe when we work around these large animals and we can still get the job done and utilize those tools that are available to us.
Okay. Luckily today we have a portable chute with us, and we have this little brown Swiss heifer. We picked on a small one to work on today to demonstrate with. When I started into practice about 30 years ago, there wasn't a chute in Franklin County. And all the cattle were restrained in a tobacco barn because we had to use that particular barn for a lot of different functions. We farrowed sheep, lamb sheep out in the barn, and we farrowed sows out in the barn, and we made a lot of use of it. So just for some of the younger veterinarians that are coming along with a lot of modern facilities, some of the fellows that started years ago had to handle these cattle on the end of the lasso. And you run the whole herd in a barn, you lasso each one of them, you stub them to a post, you get a blood sample, and you turn them loose. So we've got things a little bit easier now with these portable chutes, and while we got this one in here, we're going to demonstrate a few things that are very elementary. We finish this, we're going to show some restraints on animals when you do not have them in a chute, how to cast an animal. We're not going to actually lay it down, but we're going to show how it can be done. And then when we finish that, we're going to sit down and talk about a rope, how it's made, how to care for a rope, what to do, what not to do, how to make ties, and how to make several different type ties. Now the first thing we're going to do here is show some simple restraints, things that you can do, ways you can hold an animal when you don't have a chute. And one of them on a smaller calf is you can simply get the calf by the ear between your hand and your thumb without applying a great deal of pressure. You don't want to damage the ear cartilage. And the second way is to get the animal under the jaw. You can bring the head around to you this way, and you pretty well got the animal held. If you've got a good grip and a pretty strong arm on a larger cow, you can get them by the nose. Now this is a little painful procedure, they don't like it, and that's the ideal. This is one of the things that takes the attention away from something else that you might be doing. So if you're working on a foot, if you're trying to treat a cow for mastitis, put some medication in the udder, pick up a foot, examine it for lameness to see if it has a nail in it or foot rot, something like that, you can hold them by the nose. Now the harder you squeeze, the more they object to it, so the ideal situation is to apply the least amount of pressure that you have to get the job done. And this is going to be true of all the restraint that we talk about today. The least amount of pressure that you can apply to get the animal examined or to get the animal treated. Now another good hold on the front of the cow is the lip. This is a pad out here that you can get in your hand like this, and there again, if you have a strong grip, you can kind of lead this cow around a little bit and kind of make her do what you want to. This is the ideal method of getting hold of one if you want to give a worm bolus, where you stick a worm pill down one, or if you want to use a speculum and your animal is bloated and you want to put a hose into the stomach or a piece of stomach tube in to relieve the gas. If they're a little bigger than this and you need to, you can take two hands. They've got two sides, they've got two lips, you've got two hands, and by applying pressure here, you can kind of lead the animal around and do a lot of things to them that you don't need a halter or nose tongs or things like that in order to handle the animal. Okay, now we have showed you the rather simple methods of restraint. If we need to get the animal held a little firmer than you can do by hand, you need a halter. This is a new halter, and therefore it's not going to work real well. Halters and lassos and shoes are all about alike. They're not good till you break them in, and they have to be about halfway worn out. Now, I know this seems elementary, but I've handed this halter or a halter to enough people to tell you that everyone does not know how to put on a halter. So I'm going to demonstrate at least one way to put on a halter. It doesn't make any difference how far you make the bottom loop. That's exaggerated, but it doesn't make any difference. The point is you need to have a part to go over the ears first and to adjust it below the eyes. And this part can be as big as you want to, because all you have to do to fit this halter is to pull on this. Okay? Now, it's very important that the halter be adjusted under the eyes like this and pulled up tightly. The reason for that being, if you do not do this and you put the halter on too loose and it's down here and you tie this heifer to a post or something and she pulls back real hard, This rope can get down over the nostrils, and when you finish delivering a calf or doing something where you're not able to watch this animal breathe all the time, you end up with a dead cow on your hands, and you haven't accomplished a great deal.
Okay, now, Doc, if we were looking at this halter just holding it up, how would we know which end to put over top of her head?
Okay, we're going to do it again because the part that slides last goes under the chin. That's the thing to remember. The part that slides last goes under the chin. Now, the other thing I want to emphasize in putting on a halter, I was standing pretty close, but if this was a grown cow and she stuck her head out here a little further and swung it to the left real hard, she could knock me over against this tree. And the other thing that they can do is they can step forward and they can get a neck out about this far, and they can take that neck down and make a swoop with it and knock you to either side. So it's rather important to stand back at a little bit of a distance when you're putting this halter on to keep from getting hurt. So you can stand back and get on your tiptoes and reach over here like this, but just over the ears first. Let this dangle down under the chin and then draw it up like so. What we want to do now is bring this heifer's head around to the side. And one thing I would like to caution you about is you can pull this rope just as hard this way as you can wrapping your hand around it. And although this heifer is in the chute and you're very likely not going to get hurt under these circumstances, this gets to be a real bad habit. And since habits are hard to break, let me advise you not to wrap a rope around your hand, please. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to tie this heifer's head back, and I find that a lot of people have a tendency to put the rope this way, but when you do, you just have a direct pull and you have no leverage whatsoever. So let me caution you to not fight with it when you're doing this, but just go ahead and put the rope around this way because it's plenty long to do that with. Here you've got a half hitch already. It solves all the problem. Let me just let this come right down here. You pull her head around here, and you come around the second time, and you make a slip knot. Now the reason for the second time is it takes all the pressure off of the rope, and consequently when you get ready to untie your knot, it's no problem to untie the knot. But if you don't go the second time, and she fights it, and she pulls your knot up tight, not in this particular type rope, but in some ropes, it makes a knot that's awfully hard to get loose. So this is a slip knot, it's easy to undo, and this is a feature of all the knots that we'll talk about today. They're easy to tie, they stay tied, and they're easy to untie. Okay? Let's do this again. There's another way you can do that. If you're going around a post or something, for example, you can go this far, go under the rope, and back around, which puts all the pressure on the rope here. Has nothing to do with your knot. You tie you a simple slip knot, you go over the rope, and slide this back up through here. Now that's a slip knot. Now, if you're going to keep this heifer tied some little time, and they have a tendency to chew on the rope and pull on the end of this, it's very easy to get this rope untied. So horses can do it, and calves can do it too. So a lot of times if you tie this and you want to make sure it stays tied, you want to drop this end of the rope down through here, through your loop. That doesn't make it easy to untie. You no longer have a slip knot. But you've got a knot that when they pull on it, at least they don't untie themselves and go walking off someplace.
Okay, Dr. Green, now that we have the animal restrained around in that position, what are some things that we might use that restraint to do to that animal?
Okay. If we were going to dehorn, for example, and we wanted to put a block in here before we dehorn, we could have the animal positioned in this position, because whoever's going to help do the dehorning will be standing about where you are and putting the dehorners on. If we had a case of pink eye we wanted to treat, we could have the animal's head pulled this way and raise this eyelid up and dust the powder in here or spray it. Or if we wanted to inject the eye with an antibiotic, we could do it with the animal in this position. If we want to do the other eye, we take the head around to the other side, tie it on that side, and then do the other.
Is it necessary to have an animal restrained like that to put in, say, ear tags or implants or things like that?
Okay, no. As a matter of fact, the way we started with no halter, no nose lead or anything else, you can tattoo your calves, you can implant the calves. Now they're going to jump around. You can put in fly tags, it's very easy to do, but on your implants, you'll probably do a better job if you have your animal restrained, because when you put the needle under here, they do a lot of jumping around, and if you don't put your implant in right, you might as well not put your implant in at all.
Dr. Green, what about using other halters on large animals?
Okay, I want to show you what's called the Wyoming halter. It's a piece of rope about 12 feet long, and you splice a ring in the end of it, It's a right simple halter, and I think it can be used for a lot of other things besides that. As a matter of fact, we're going to show in a minute how to pick up a foot with it. But this is made by, or this halter is put on simply by going around the neck, coming up here by the jaw, going under the chin, back through here a second time, and you've got a Wyoming halter.
Okay. So you could almost just use a straight piece of rope with a ring in it.
A piece of rope with a ring in it is called a Wyoming halter. Okay? Now, if you just had a lariat rope, for example, a lasso around this animal's neck, say you caught it out in the field and you had a lasso like this, you can make a temporary halter by just going under the rope, coming back over the nose, and making a loop like this. Now, that's a temporary halter. Now, to pick up a foot, all you need is a rope with a ring in it or a rope with a loop in the end of it. You need to go around the leg this way. Unless you're a lot luckier than I am, I've never been able to get a cow to pick her foot up and set it in my rope. So I usually have to take the rope apart and go around the foot with it. I probably would rather not use this ring, but since I've got it to demonstrate with, I'm going to. Now, the purpose of this would be to either examine the foot for lameness or to pick this foot up if you were going to infuse the udder or do something or treat a wound or anything else that you were going to do to the animal to keep the animal from kicking. The other thing I'd like to emphasize is whenever you're treating an animal, treat on the opposite side of where the animal is injured, because if they're going to kick at all, they'll usually kick on the side that they're injured on. Okay? This loop is put around the leg. It's put up over the back. It's brought up over the back, and the leg is picked up to the stole, and your rope is wrapped around the foot, and this allows you a chance to, if she doesn't lay down on you, even if she does, it allows you a chance to examine the foot. A lot of times these animals will step on a steeple where you have a new fence built, or step on a nail, or a piece of number 9 wire, or they may have a lesion between their toes that we call foot rot.
Dr. Green, if we were going to trim the feet on a large animal, how can we use ropes to do that?
Okay, there's 2 ways to cast an animal. I'll demonstrate both of them, and I'll give you the pros and the cons. The first one is called the squeeze method, and it involves putting a loop around the neck or around the horns if the animal had horns. Now, it's very essential that this knot that's tied here be a bowline, B-O-W-L-I-N-E, bowline or bowline, because it's the only knot that I can tell you that you can use that will not slip. We're going to show you how to tie it a simple way. You make a simple slip knot. You slide this end through it, the end through it, and the secret to it is you make sure that this rope comes to the opposite side. Now, that is a bowline. As you can see, both of these loops come out at the same place with the loop around this way. That knot will not slip up. You want to make it loose enough that it doesn't choke the animal. Then you feed the rope over the animal's back and under the belly and back up through here. Now, what we have just done is we have made a half hitch, like so. We do the same thing again. Back here, we want to avoid the udder at all possible. You got a big Holstein cow or something like that, you're going to impinge upon the milk vein. If it's a bull, you're going to put some pressure on the penis, and therefore this is usually not the method of choice in casting an animal. However, one person, one rope can pull on this and the animal will lay down. The second method used to cast an animal is called the Burley method. It's named after a veterinarian in Georgia, and it's spelled just like Burley, B-U-R-L-E-Y, just like our Burley tobacco. It involves taking half of a rope, I'll give you all of it, and half of it back. Okay? Taking half a rope, feeding it through the front, under the front leg. You got yours under there, Roger? Over the back, got a long rope, but that's all right. And between the back legs. Well, she stepped on my loop. She did everything except what she's supposed to do. That's okay. Now, they get a little fractious when you do this, obviously. Jersey breeds are rather pleasant to work with, but when you get to harness them up like this, they don't particularly care for it. But a very little pressure on that rope, and the animal will lay down, as was just demonstrated unintentionally. The advantage of this method is it does not put a lot of pressure on the chest, as the first one does. It does not put a lot of pressure on the prepuce or penis or the udder. It also gives you two ropes that when you cast the animal down, these ropes can be used to put around the foot, come back up here, make a tie, and to actually restrain the animal much easier than the other method. Also, this is a good method to use if you have an animal that gets down in a pond or something, breaks through the ice, or a horse either. You come back up here, you can make a knot in here, and you can put a clevis under here, and you can raise this animal up out of the water, or if she's down and couldn't get up, raise her back up to her feet.
Kind of makes a sling then, doesn't it, Doc?
Makes a sling. Okay, another knot that is real useful on the farm is called a clove hitch. And a clove hitch is made by turning this rope over on top and making the loop this way. And this goes under this, and it goes over an object like this, say a bumper hitch on your vehicle. It makes an H. But this knot, when pulled up, will not let go. You can pull on this as hard as you want to, and it will not come loose. But it's an easy knot to get undone because you just kind of wiggle it a little bit and you get it off. So it wouldn't be good to tie a boat up with, but if you want to tie on a load of hay, or anything, if you want to put this over a bumper hitch on your car to say drag a log or something, it's so simple. It's not a knot, it's a hitch. And hitches don't weaken your rope because you don't put a lot of pressure on it, and you don't fray the fibers in your rope. So this is an excellent knot to use. The other one that would be useful on a farm is what we call a timber hitch. And a timber hitch, you go over the rope and come back and then wrap around it about 3 or 4 times through here like this. And you pull that knot up, and that's a timber hitch. And you can pull it on this all day, and the reason it won't come undone is because the rope is pulling against all those little wraps you put on there. But you did not tie a knot in it. If you don't tie a knot in it, you don't weaken your rope. So there's 2 knots that are very useful on the farm that are easy to untie, they're easy to tie, and they'll do the job. Now the other way, if you had a pole here and you couldn't put it over the end, the second way to tie the knot, and I'll see if I can do it backwards here for a camera purpose, is you go over the rope and come back and slide this end up through here. Now you've got the same knot again. It's a clove hitch, and it's a very useful knot. Now the other knot I want to show, some of these are 6 basic knots that tenderfoot scouts have to know before they can become a tenderfoot. This is called a half hitch, and you come through here. We put a half hitch on the cow a while ago. You come through here, and you come through here a second time. You've got 2 half hitches, and 2 half hitches makes an excellent knot. You pull it up like this. Now there are improvements on that. One of the improvements on this would be if you come through here twice, and then come back up here, and you do this the next time, and it looks like the same knot, but it's not the same knot because this knot won't slip, or the other one will. Now, demonstrations, that's the way they work. Roger, take my word for it, it won't slip. This is called a taut line hitch. You can loosen up on it, and then you can pull on it. You can loosen up on it, and you can pull on it. Okay? That's a taut line. That's kind of an improvement on 2 half hitches. And I guess that we would be unfair if we didn't tie a square knot. This way, this way, this way, this way, and back this way, and that's a square knot.
Now we could use that if we were putting baler twine in the back of a baler, couldn't we?
All right. I'm glad you've asked that question because there's a better knot. The square knot, although it's a traditional knot, is not the better knot to do that with. The better knot to do that with is called a sheet bend, S-H-E-E-T, sheet bend. And you can loop it the same way. Now let me show you. This is going to be a square knot. You go in through here, go around, and come back out through here, and you have a square knot. But if you won't go back out through there, and will come up under this rope that you went through to start with, and use this, now that's a sheet bend. This is a better knot than a square knot. This is a knot that's used to tie two ropes of unequal size. So if you have a piece of string and a big rope, you can tie a string to a rope and the knot would hold, or a square knot will not hold. But even for binder twine, this makes a much stronger knot, a much better knot, a much smaller knot, and will hold much better than a square knot will. It's called a sheet bend. I also want to show you again the knot that I used around the cow's neck, the bowline knot, because that knot does not pull up. It will not tighten up. Now the way that I showed you to do it was to make a simple slip knot like this, and to take the loose end and run through here. Now, it's very important when you pull the knot down that you pull this through to the opposite side. If you do that, you'll end up with a bowline knot, which we just did. And the way you can tell it's a bowline is because these two come out through the same hole.